Right, guilty movie pleasure fans. Do you experience road rage like I do? Well, we got the cure for it, because today we're celebrating the fucking Jason Statham classic, Death Race.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Guilty Movie Pleasures.
Oh, yes, guilty movie pleasure fans. We've been on a 3-week hiatus, mainly because I have been the boy in the plastic bubble lately. I caught a mean summer cold that would not leave me be. And you know how sick I was, Jesse? How sick I was that...
How sick were you?
I wasn't even able to watch movies. That's how sick I was.
That's absurd.
Right?
Yeah.
It was miserable. For like 2 weeks, I was just... brutally 103.8 fever, nonsense.
103.8 fever.
Well, for like 2 days.
Said?
2 days.
That's a long time to be feverish.
Like, yeah, I had to take several cold showers. Anyways.
I haven't been sick for years.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we're back, everybody. We're back after a long hiatus. We're talking Death Race today. I have a very special guest, one of my good friends, one of the first people I ever met out here in Los Angeles, Mr. Jesse McIntosh in the house.
You're the last friend that I made.
Yes.
I stopped making friends after that. I was like, enough. We hit capacity.
We've hit the point of diminishing return after this.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, you've been on the show before.
Yes.
And last time we talked about the Rundown. The Rock classic.
Starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
Do you understand the concept of the Tooth Fairy? I think we still have that sound clip. It's always on here if I'm not... Oh, wait, now Zach's going to go searching for it.
It plays in my head all the time.
So... We talked about what movie to watch for this week, and you had mentioned a Jason Statham movie because of the Mechanic Resurrection. And I would like to know from the audience, if there's anyone live watching, comment, or if not, tweet at us. I want to know if anyone else saw the Mechanic Resurrection, because I did, and I thought it was very meh. It was the Mechanic Resurrection. Hey, look at that.
I feel like that's not the reaction they were hoping for.
No, it's
just going out on a limb.
I love Jason Statham movies. I own a ton of them, and I've only disliked a few. And this is one where I was just disappointed because I thought it was going to be a super ultra violent, like throwback to like a 90s type action movie, 80s or 90s action movie. And it sort of was, but they spend like 30 minutes on a love story between Jessica Alba and Jason Statham that is really forced and awkward. And then she's just the damsel in distress repeatedly for the rest of the movie.
People, let me just put this out there. People love love.
They do love love.
And I think if you're catering to the people,
then you need love. You need love. You're right.
And if I'd say it would be weird if they weren't in love.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
I mean, why would he go on these 3 really elaborate, accidental looking hits and kill these people?
Why would a mechanic be doing any of this if it weren't for love?
Yeah. Here's the biggest gripe I have, and then I'll move on from the Mechanic Resurrection.
We don't need to.
The advertisements made it seem like it was a buddy action movie between Tommy Lee Jones and Jason Statham. Tommy Lee Jones is in 7 minutes of the movie. Maybe. He's in it less than Judi Dench was in Shakespeare in Love. Although she won an Academy Award.
I was going to say, we should make a ranking of tremendous performances in 7 minutes or less. And where would you put Tommy Lee Jones?
I mean, he's always tremendous.
He's got a tremendous face. I love his face.
His face is so just...
It's strong.
It looks like it's cartoonishly amazing. It looks like a Dick Tracy character in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can only take it for 7 minutes. Maybe if it were 8 minutes of Tommy Lee Jones, you'd have been like,
oh man, too much.
Where's the love story?
Back to Death Race. So I own all 3 of these movies, but I've only seen the first one. I got the other 2 in like the bargain bin, and I've always been like, yeah, I'll watch them someday.
Did you ever wonder why they made 3?
Well, it's just because it made money, and they're straight to DVD schlock shitty ones.
Yeah.
Like this movie. I would love to know also on Twitter or the comment section, what's your favorite Jason Statham movie? Because I think this might be my favorite because it's ridiculous and it has everything you want out of a Jason Statham movie. He's the strong, stoic, tough guy. He's out for revenge.
He's accented.
Mm-hmm. He beats people up. He cracks necks. There's tons of mayhem. This movie's like Twisted Metal, the video game, in real life meets Fast and Furious with Jason Statham in it, which is like Fast and Furious 7.
He's actually in Fast and Furious movies, so you can see that in real life. It's my favorite part about Jason Statham in this movie is he is not a criminal.
No.
But he goes into like the worst jail ever and just whoops ass for an hour and a half, like unafraid of anyone.
Yep.
I am not a criminal. If I went into jail,
I'd be more like List.
I really want to talk about List. What did List do? What could he? Here's my theory.
So wait, just so the audience knows, in case you haven't seen this movie, and then we're jumping around a little bit, but List, I think is his name.
It's what they call him.
That's what they call him.
Not
his nickname.
Not his Christian name.
He's one of the not his government name.
Yeah.
He's in the road crew that like helps fix up Frankenstein, aka Jason Statham, aka Jensen Ames' vehicle. And he's just kind of like this guy who's a little bit on the spectrum, and he's just like, he makes lists of everything, and he knows everything, and he stutters a lot. He's kind of a walking stereotype.
Do we feel like he works on the car? So I have a lot of thoughts
so
about
many
List.
questions.
Let's only talk about List for this podcast.
So he works on the car.
Does he?
Maybe he's just an employee of the prison. Like, because I can't imagine he committed any crime that would make him go there.
Okay. They addressed the like head crew guy,
Coach.
Ian McShane, Coach. They addressed Coach. He used to be in.
He's on
no
parole,
longer in.
but he has that syndrome where he can't leave.
He just
prison.
can't leave. Which I don't think is a.
It is a thing. It is a thing, but it's a thing that they just decided not to Google to figure out what it's called to say in the movie.
Just like, you know that thing.
There's this thing. Look it up. I'm Ian McShane.
Look
Anything I
in the
say,
encyclopedia.
anything I say sounds amazing because I'm Ian McShane.
Very good. It's
pretty good.
That's your second impression of the day.
Hey,
2-0.
I got at least two more.
I'm gonna do List. I'm gonna do a List impression, but it'll be unintentional. It'll just be like, what is that guy just stuttering, acting
super
weird?
offensive.
But so here's my theory about him.
Yes.
I think he was the victim of a crime.
Oh.
And since he was involved in a crime, they were like, let's go.
You go to that prison.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get too carried away, I want to say when I first saw this movie opening night in theaters, I went with my buddy Corey Ular. Shout out to Corey Ular, best friend since first grade. He and I went because that was the thing. We used to go to like really crazy action movies. We saw Punisher Warzone opening night. We saw this. I think they came out the same year. And we were laughing,
big year for you guys.
laughing our ass off the entire movie because this movie delivers on everything it's supposed to. You go in there expecting nonstop vehicular mayhem, and you pretty much get it.
More or less.
It's like a 40-minute setup that's still interesting and fun and badass. It's not like it's slow and boring. It's really fast-paced and almost like a video game.
And really cool looking.
Yeah.
Like it's super cool
The
to
style's
look at.
really awesome. Mm-hmm. And then the last hour and like 20 minutes is just nonstop vehicular mayhem, and the action scenes go on forever, but they're not like Michael Bay boring, where like the action scenes in certain Michael Bay movies, Transformers, all four of them, they go on forever, and eventually you're like, what's happening? But this one, it's like, they keep upping the stakes, which we'll get to.
And it's very like close to the action too. Like there wasn't a ton of like big picture stuff.
No.
Like you were most of the time in the car with them, or like close to the car, experiencing it with them, kind of, which was super cool.
And you've seen this before, right?
I had seen it before. I did not see it opening night because Corey was unavailable.
Yeah. Corey, he can only go a certain night.
I saw it several years later on DVD. I did not see it in theaters, so maybe my experience was diminished slightly.
Are you a Statham fan?
I'm a fan. I'm not a fanatic.
Oh, I'm a fanatic.
Yeah.
I watch everything with Statham in it.
Like we were talking about it a little bit before, but like it's mostly like the same movie.
Yeah.
It's more or less.
Statham movies are more or less. He's the heroic anti-hero where he's not like quite like a bad guy, but he always has like an edge to him.
He's always like wrangled in. And it's like, why would you bring this guy into your conflict?
Yeah.
Like he's clearly gonna kill everyone.
Yeah.
He does a tremendous amount of pull-ups.
He does every movie, tremendous amount of pull-ups.
Pull-ups. That's his bag. Yeah. I wonder if he can do push-ups.
I wonder if that's in his rider in his contract. If it's like, I need at least one shot of me doing chin-ups and pull-ups.
I wonder
with my muscles glistening.
I wonder
in the
like
shadows.
which way it goes. If people just expect it out of him, and his rider is like maximum 4 chin-ups. Like I don't want to just be doing chin-ups for a scene.
Yeah.
Or if he's like, we need at least 3.
Well, I was watching the behind the scenes of this movie, and this was one of the first movies he had gotten like super jacked for. Like, although they claim that, but he was pretty jacked in Transporter 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I can't wait to drink beer and eat cake again. And I'm like, Jason Statham, you never get to drink beer and eat cake.
I mean, maybe he's just one of those people that drinks beer and eats cake
and still
looks
awesome.
like that.
There's rumor that he lives on like the beach over near Malibu, and he walks a white tiger around. And I was hanging out on 4th of July, and we did Statham Watch 2012, and we called it Statham Watch 2012. And me and my friends just walked up and down the beach because we were right around where he supposedly lived, and we wanted to see Jason Statham walking a white tiger. But then the more I unraveled the rumor of that, it seems like that's illegal.
Well, here's what I want to do right here, right now, is take this rumor a step further and say he doesn't even leash the tiger. He keeps it off the leash, and he just lets it roam free.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it doesn't leave his side too far.
Well,
and it obeys his command.
Statham is such a badass that even a white tiger, he can tame a white tiger.
Yeah.
It's just that's what he does.
It's the white tiger is one of many wild animals that he has, but it's the only one he walks on the beach.
The best thing about Statham is he is always Statham, except there was this movie called Parker that was a remake.
Heard of it.
I didn't like it. That was a Statham movie that I hated, and partly because it was like trying to be something really clever and it wasn't.
Okay.
And also Statham tries to do like a southern accent in it.
No.
And it's incredible. He's like, yeah, I'm just here because I'm gonna buy a house, no big deal. And it's still him with like a sort of southern twang.
He's like such a brand at this point. Like, why would you do anything else?
No, you don't need to.
You're so bankable on what you do.
Like in The Expendables when he says, "Oh, now I pronounce you man and knife," and he's dressed as a priest and he stabs you. He always has these amazing one-liners in his movies. But I want to get into the plot, so we're gonna do the plot in under 3 minutes because otherwise I'll just keep talking off on all these tangents.
We've done most of it already.
So. Yeah, exactly.
We're going to introduce the tiger into the plot. It wasn't in the movie.
It wasn't in the movie, but the plot's so thin that we'll be able to do this in 90 seconds. Zach, you ready with the clock? Cue the plane, too. Zach, are you in there?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go.
Go in 3.
So I'll let you start, Jesse, or do you want me to start?
No, I'll start.
Okay,
I'm
ready?
Unafraid.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jesse, take it away.
All right, Jason Statham is working in some sort of plant, and they're laid off because the economy's going down. And then he goes back to his wife.
The riot police show up for no reason.
The riot police show up. Why? We don't know.
No one's rioting.
We don't know. They get paid nothing, and they're like, cool, this is fine. It's not a big deal. And he goes home. We get introduced to his wife and his baby.
Very briefly.
But key.
Yeah.
Very important part. He goes to see his baby, and he comes back, and his wife is dead.
Yeah.
And he's knocked out.
He gets sprayed with Febreze or something that knocks him out.
He's get freshened up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And then there's this guy with a ski mask, and he looks at him and goes, and you're like, oh, I bet that's going to be key. And then you think they kill the baby, which I was like, fuck that. Don't kill the baby, man. And they don't. They're not that heartless. Then he ends up in prison. No trial, nothing. He just ends up in prison in the world's most deadliest prison. I forget what it's called. It's Terminus or something like that.
Yep,
Who cares?
probably.
Sure, yeah, Terminus. That's from Walking Dead. Anyways, they go to this prison where death race has become this thing because the economy crashed in 2012 and prisons were overrun. They were privatized.
Yep. So naturally,
So now they stream live. They went from prison fights to now death race twisted metal matches with 10 drivers blasting each other apart. And he's this. We find out that he was this really experienced driver of some sort in these racetracks.
Super not important.
So then he's brought into the race.
Yeah. So first he's like in the. He's like eating whatever. Yeah. He's eating breakfast.
Slop.
And Pachenko,
the
big bad
not
of the
to
movie.
be considered Pachanga.
No, yeah. Absolutely
not the resort and casino.
Although he was a joy.
Yes, Pachenko and the Brotherhood, all skinheads, because you have to have skinhead bad guys in prison.
Yeah, so they set up they fight, and he whoops Pachenko's ass, and then he's brought up to the warden's office, and the warden's like, "I need you to be Frankenstein."
Joan Allen.
Yeah. Well, she's not like, "I need you to be Joan Allen." She is Joan Allen.
I mean, she is Joan Allen.
Yeah.
So she's like, "I need you to be Frankenstein because Frankenstein is a mask. Frankenstein is this big kind of like mythic character in the death race that's won 4 races." She's like, "I'll give you your freedom." So anyways, blah blah. He's like, "I'm not gonna do it," and then he ends up doing it, and he joins Ian McShane and List, and then the other guy who likes weird misogynistic and homophobic comments, and then they do the first race, and a whole bunch of people die, and like Reaper dies. He's like, "You can't kill me," gets killed. Then there's a little small plot point in between where he fights the dudes.
Well, and
fights
he
the Brotherhood.
like goes in and he like figures it out. He goes in, he's like, "I'm not racing." She's like, "You better race because here's your baby."
Yeah. And then the second race happens, and they bring out the Dreadnought, which is this giant semi-truck with all these guards that have like these machine guns and flamethrowers and shit. And then he and Tyrese start to kind of team up and go on the offense. sequence, and they destroy the Dreadnought, but not before the Dreadnought takes out everybody but Tyrese, which is Machine Gun Joe and Jason Statham's character.
And so then they have
Jensen
a private
Ames.
conversation. We don't know what happens in the conversation, and then they
the third race.
It looks like they're racing, but they're not. They escape.
They escape and they go, and
end up
they're
on
in
the beach of
Mexico, and
Miami.
yay, and
No,
he's with the
Miami.
hot girl, Miami.
Yeah, they don't have passports.
No, Mexico. It says Mexico in the end.
I thought they were going to Miami.
I love that the last 5 seconds we're debating. They do say Miami.
They say it a bunch.
And then there's a little tagline that says Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
It's so confusing because they're like, I'd like to go to Miami.
I want to go to Miami.
And then it's like, Mexico.
So how do we get here?
Okay, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I love
smuggled
that
the
we
baby.
focused on the minutia, and then it was like, oh shit, action!
And
this time
first
happened.
race, second race, third race.
So
There
let's
were
go.
3 races. There were 3 death races.
And each one's 20 minutes long, and it's
great.
amazing.
They're
It's
tremendous.
amazing. So I don't want to waste too much time on the setup because
Okay.
the best stuff is the action. But basically, what we talked about was the opening sequence is very jarring. I thought where they introduced the old Frankenstein, which is the voice of David Carradine from the original Death Race. He's the voice. I read
not know
on
that.
IMDb. Yeah, and he gets killed. But then, and it's cut really terrible. The first scene, I was watching it last night, and I was like, "Oh shit! If this is the whole movie, I'm gonna vomit," because it's all like, it was like really just trying to throw you into it, and I hate that kind of like, we already know it's fast. You don't need to go like zoom in and out and shake. Don't do
I just
this.
want to emphasize the point.
Don't do the zoom in and out and handheld. That's too much. That's like,
Can you imagine being that camera guy, by the way? Being like, okay, so just hold it, but move the camera as much as you can while zooming.
Oh God, it's the Paul Greengrass
Nailed
way.
it.
It's the Paul Greengrass way
Nailed it.
thing. Any Bourne movie. I love the Bourne movies, but I also want to vomit while I'm watching them. So that happens. Frankenstein dies, but he's so popular with the fans because this is like a reality TV thing. It's like an online pay-per-view thing, which is not too far off from where we could be in the next 20 years.
So I don't know when the death races were taking place. They never gave us a
It was
timeline,
sometime
right?
after 2012.
Right, because it happened pretty quickly. It seemed like that 2012 the economy went down,
And then just-
now there are death races.
just
really
within a year or
what
two.
happened to us? Why did we do this?
We're just like, shit. I mean,
I guess we should have death races.
I mean, if this election is any indication, we might have death races.
should we build more prisons? No, we should not.
No, we should just
should
have
have
death
death races.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where I could see where people who are in the reality TV world and these if prisons became privatized and they weren't governed by the government anymore, they were governed by corporations and they had their own set of rules. I could see how this could go out of control and snowball real fast.
Yeah,
And I could see how the mass public would just be like, yeah, I'm watching murder, but they're all murderers and rapists, so it's okay.
they keep track of the deaths.
Yeah.
That's so in our country in prison,
Yeah.
they're like, these are like a stat.
It's like a very macho version of the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
In prison with death cars.
The kicker, if you're the killiest of all the killers, you get to leave. What?
First off, I love that description. Can we hashtag killiest of all killers?
Killiest of all killers.
If you're the killiest of all killers and you win 5 races and kill all of the people,
all the other killers,
which there's 10 racers per race.
and there are clearly there are the worst.
And there's a 3-part
10
race. 3 part. So each race is 3 parts. That means you've killed people 15 times.
15 legs, and you've survived them all. At the very least, because you could have lost a race and not died and then gone on to race again. So if you survived at least 15 legs and killed
the killiest
of the killers, then you're allowed to go back onto the streets.
Yes, but Joan Allen's character, the warden, which I forget her name, warden something, whatever.
Oh, Hennessy.
Hennessy, and then Aldrich or something is the other guy, Jason Clarke.
Yeah.
They clearly set it up where no one can ever win.
No one's gonna win.
And that's why they keep killing Frankenstein and making someone else take on the mantle because they want him for ratings, which doesn't make sense because eventually he's gonna win or die, and they're gonna
He can't just keep losing and continue being this popular.
Yeah,
right.
Because what we find out later is that they set him up to die in the first scene, the original Frankenstein. So. There's flawed logic there, but she's Warden Hennessy. She has an amazing name.
Here's my other problem. I just want to before we get really into it,
Yeah.
and this is super not important, but if to subscribe to all 3 races, it costs $250.
Yeah.
Jason Statham was paid for 2 weeks' work over 100 hours at the plant. He was paid $300.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of money.
That's outrageous.
That's outrageous.
If the economy is so bad, like I would
Who can
probably
afford this?
buy food.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't
I
care.
mean-
I'd like go to my friend's house and watch Death Race.
Just everybody chips
Everyone
in
chips in.
$10.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was. It was like when we used to watch WWF back in the day in the 90s, and we'd all just chip in $10
wanted
for
to clear that
pay-per-view.
up. Yeah.
Here's one of my first sound clips that I really liked was first off, I like that this kind of has the 90s 80s feel where just in general, but also they set it up where 6 months later after he's been in prison, it's Christmas time, and that was a big thing in like any Shane Black movie or a lot of stuff like Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, all that stuff in the 80s and 90s. It was like this thing where these action movies took place on Christmas for some reason
Because it's the happiest
and
time of year.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love it because it juxtaposes the craziness that's happening. But one of the first quotes we have is after the prison fight, and Jason Statham beats the hell out of the neo-Nazis because, of course, a steel worker can take on 4 giant skinheads. We have the oatmeal clip by Ian McShane, which is just awesome. Can we play?
I guess he didn't like the oatmeal either.
I just love Ian McShane because he delivers the most ridiculous lines in this movie, and they're awesome.
Well, and he was like one of his buds.
Yeah.
Or they weren't buds at that point, right? He was just like observing.
Yeah.
But he was just like chilling, watching the fight.
Reading his tiny book.
Yeah.
Writing it in his tiny journal.
tiniest book. They couldn't have given him a bigger book.
They never explain what it is. It's just a tiny
It's
book.
his tiny book.
Is he writing notes or is he reading
no,
in it?
He writes one-liners in there. and he was consulting. I guess he didn't like the oatmeal either.
You know, I was hanging out. I was watching my nephew a while ago, and he's still young, so he's like he just turned 4, but it was about a year or 2 ago, and I was like, I don't know what you eat, so the only thing I'm really good at cooking for breakfast is oatmeal. So I was like, I hope you like this. There wasn't any brown sugar or anything. It was just kind of plain and boring. And he started eating it, and he was like, "Bleh," and he threw it at me, the little jerk, and it got I got oatmeal in my eyeball. And then when I came home, when my sister came home to check in, I was washing the oatmeal out of my eye, and she looked at me and said,
I guess he didn't like the oatmeal either.
that was a very long setup for something that didn't really have a payoff.
It worked. I think it worked.
Thank you.
You know what's crazy though?
Yeah,
It's funny that you should say that because I was building a house.
Oh, you
several
built
years ago.
several houses.
Yeah, this was the second house that I built, Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
And
cause.
Yeah, so we ran out of the
Yep.
stuff that goes in between the
cement.
bricks.
Yeah, you build so many houses that you just forget the technical terms.
It's like who needs materials when you have a heart?
You just
know what
point
I
and
mean?
just say that stuff.
thing. We need more of that thing.
There's
We
great
ran out
stuff.
of it.
Yeah.
And so someone took their breakfast and they just put the oatmeal down. They just laid the oatmeal down.
worked.
And it worked, which was the craziest part. But then it only worked temporarily because then when we were putting up the like, the other materials, the house came down and I looked at it and I was like,
I guess he didn't like the oatmeal either.
you're welcome for that one.
You are welcome, America. Oh my God! So the oatmeal quote happens. We find out that another one of my favorite quotes is when so Statham meets Warden Hennessy, and Joan Allen is so good that she can live in this B movie world and still be a badass and still deliver everything with such power. And we'll get to my favorite line later. But for right now, this quote, the foul language quote, is so funny to me because she's apparently offended by foul language, even though she's surrounded by murder and destruction. So can we play her foul language quote?
Foul language is an issue for me.
I love those pauses too. Foul language is an issue for me.
Because every time she pauses, you're like, foul language is what?
What?
What is it?
An issue.
An issue.
For who?
For who?
For you. Oh. God, it's so good. Oh, I don't even know if I want to do an improv round on that because it's so good. It's so good. I have had we have done some shows on here where it's like more kid oriented, like a Batman 1960s show or something, and or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I swear a lot.
Sure.
And some parents have emailed Popcorn Talk. They've been upset. And one woman specifically, she didn't really have... Her subject was just...
Foul language is an issue for me.
And ironically, though, her email was filled with filthy language about how upset she was that I exposed her child to
Was
that.
it an audio subject? It was like a link. The subject was a link, and you clicked on it.
Foul
like,
language is an issue for me.
Interesting. You know what's crazy? Like, not to like harp on the houses that I built.
Yeah. You build a lot, but it's important.
When that oatmeal wall came down, I looked at the oatmeal wall and I was like, son of a bitch. And everyone else simultaneously in unison said to me,
what's because it's habitat?
Foul language is an issue
You can't
for me.
you can't swear when you're building houses.
it's
for Habitat.
the weird
for
thing is they
Humanity.
refer to themselves as a whole as
me, the collective, the royal me.
Yeah, the royal me.
Yeah, that happens. So, all right, so we get into this, and I kind of want to, oh man. So, just in case you're worried that there's going to be plot holes, like you're like, wait, so if they get in these death machines, why don't they just turn it on the guards and like just blow up the place and just get out of there? And then you realize, because Ian McShane clears it all up in one speech to Jason Statham, can we do the clear up plot holes?
Yeah, everyone thinks that. First time.
Thinks what?
About turning the guns on the guards, about escaping.
No, I wasn't thinking that.
Well, I'm glad, because Hennessy's got electric kill switches in all the guns and all the cars. And all the guard towers are fortified, and their guns are bigger than your guns. Well, did I mention the helicopters? And also the fact that we're on an island here a mile from the nearest shoreline. And the only way in or out of here is on that one skinny bridge you came in on.
Like, that just sums up everything. So you can't be like, wait a minute, but you're like, nope.
And then after you cross the bridge, there are sharks waiting to eat you. What?
Oh my God.
What?
I
This
wish
is
that
the
went even,
crazy-
I wish that went even longer.
Like a 5-minute speech.
And did I tell you that the city that is outside of this skinny bridge is populated entirely by angry police that are just going to bring you back to the prison?
And if you're trying to get into Mexico, you're going to have to deal with customs.
And customs, if you have any fruit on you, good luck getting through.
No fruits or vegetables. Don't bring your pets.
We couldn't bring grapes back from Hawaii, and my pregnant wife was very upset about
You
that.
got to eat all the grapes before you leave Hawaii.
She tried.
Everyone knows
and
that.
She tried, and the guy was like, I don't have a dining table set up for you here. You got to throw them out. And we were like, whoa, sir.
Don't need your attitude.
We
Hawaiian
check
customs.
your attitude at the door, sir.
Yep, you're on an
so
island.
we cleared up every plot
Relax.
hole. Then we miss. Then we meet the rest. We've met the rest of the crew, and Statham's like. We find out that they get these super hot women's penitentiary. Which, by the way, wherever this women's penitentiary is, is there a way to take a vacation there? Because they're all beautiful.
They're
Like,
all gorgeous. Like
what did they do? Except for break the law by being too
They were
attractive.
too sexy.
They're too sexy. You're too sexy. You got to go to
you
prison.
have to go to the prison where we keep the sexy people.
God, Natalie Martinez, she's the girl on the cover here. She is like...
Not only is she on the cover, she's in the movie. If you haven't seen the movie.
If you haven't seen the movie. She's fantastic. And so they have... And the whole way they clear that up is for the ratings. They bring in these sexy navigators. They navigate the drivers around this course, which is interesting because they're navigating around the same course they always drive.
Right.
So it's
I
like-
think they like give them advice, but they'll have headphones too. So I guess you're right. They're all like talking to their pit crew, so
Yeah.
they can be like, "Hey, you're coming up on the sword. Drive over the sword."
Yeah.
But that's what they're supposed
And they're
to be
kind
there
of
for.
like they're there to kind of like hit things and hit buttons whenever the
guess.
driver needs it.
I guess.
Because you can't do everything.
I think here's a good.
They do brutally murder a lot of the navigators. though.
And the drivers are like unscathed.
Yeah.
Like the navigators get like shot up with 20 bullets, and the drivers are like,
poor machine gun.
Shit.
Machine Gun Joe goes through those.
Here's what I want
more
to
than
say.
I go through socks.
Here's what I want to say about Machine Gun Joe and his navigator.
Yeah.
Is everyone gets a sexy female navigator, but since Machine Gun Joe is gay, he gets a dude navigator.
Well, that's something that I don't understand. They're very homophobic about it.
Yeah.
But also they claim that it's because he goes through so many navigators that the audience got squeamish that too many women were getting killed.
but
so
all the
they
women
go-
get killed.
Yeah, actually only 14Ks gets killed, right? Oh no, they all get murdered
They
because they're
all
in
get
the
murdered,
cars.
yeah.
They're in the cars that are blowing up. They just
Yeah.
neglect to really do a insert shot of them. 14K, the triad guy, who's also Liu Kang from the original Mortal Kombat movies. He's in this because Paul W.S. Anderson directed the first Mortal Kombat as well. Nerd trivia.
I would've failed that
His
quiz.
driver gets hit by the Dreadnought spike tire,
Yeah.
and she's just like chewed up by
And
it.
he's just like there watching.
And he just kind of
it.
goes, his reaction is basically like, ha, ha, like how I react when I touch a hot pan. Ha, ha. Ooh.
You react like an old Jewish man.
That's what I do. I feel like a schlemiel. To harken back to Independence Day. So, yeah, there's this weird homophobia with Machine Gun Joe where they don't clear up if he is gay or if everybody just thinks it because he's... It's very strange. That's the one thing about the movie that makes me uncomfortable, where they make several comments where it's like, all right, maybe we should just, be a little bit more PC about it.
It's a weird time capsule of like, we would like to be progressive in our movie, but we want to make fun of him also, but we don't want you to think we're making fun of him.
But we also don't want you to actually think he's gay.
Right.
So...
It was such a strange... Like
the weirdest moment is the end with him and Jason Statham that we were talking about before the show, where he pulls out Hawaiian shirts from his bag for them to wear, and Jason Statham's like, "Man, if this is your kind of wardrobe, people are gonna question you." And he goes, "My taste in clothing," and he's like, "Yeah, something like that." And you're like, "What does that mean?
What?
What does that mean?
What? What are they saying?"
I don't know about you, but I have gay friends. None of them wear tacky, shitty, oversized Hawaiian shirts. That's not, as far as I know, that's not really the MO of...
That is how I identify gay people.
Hawaiian shirt. Well, then I'm screwed because I was in high school. I wore a different Hawaiian shirt every day. My wife's going to be questioning everything now. But that's such a weird thing. Every gay friend I have dresses way nicer than me.
Real nice. Yeah.
Way nicer.
Yeah.
And
maybe,
I know that's a stereotype, but at least it's a complimentary one.
It was just weird to like even put that in there, to have
Super
the joke.
Didn't
need
it.
Right.
Super
and
strange.
it was just like littered throughout. Like there was the one where he like approached the crew and then left, and then the one guy was like, "Well, that's one angry homo."
And you're like, "Whoa,
like,
what? I know you're in prison, but."
This is just a strange thing to say.
Well, speaking of strange things to say,
glad we talked that one out.
The same guy who says the angry homo line also apparently has very weird fetishes, because Jason Statham's character Jensen Ames is like, "I'd like to meet this navigator before the race," and then his pit crew partner says, "Can we play weird fetish?"
Yeah, I'd like a big titty girl to lick peanut butter off my toes. That ain't gonna happen.
I don't know why you listed that as weird fetish.
Are you into that? Are you into?
I'm not going to confirm or deny. I'm just saying that's a thing that he liked.
It's a thing that he likes.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're gonna get to quote him exactly, a big tittied girl.
Please get that right. Thank you.
To do anything. I'm married, so obviously I won't get a big tittied girl to do anything because I don't believe in cheating on my wife. But if I were single, and if I were into getting a big tittied girl to do something, the top, 15 to 20, licking peanut butter off my toes wouldn't even make the top 30 list.
Licking honey off your toes?
I guess I'm just kind of grossed out by
You're not into feet.
Not into feet.
Okay.
And not into food on feet being licked off of it. Because then, what if she wants to make out with you after that and you got, peanut butter and
it's going to be delicious.
Jam?
Oh.
It's just... Anyways, I'm getting grossed out by this.
He was in prison. He's been in prison for a while, so his mind has wandered, and he's made decisions on what he wants out of life.
Yeah.
Why? I wish that they would let him death race, so that he could get out of death. He could get out of the
so he could get as many big titty women to lick the peanut butter off him as he wanted.
Or he should go to the women's jail. Because that's where they
That's where they like the
That's where
so
they
let's
are.
get in. Okay, I don't want to run out of time because we got to get into the actual death races. So the setup for the death race is amazing because it sounds like Spike TV's intro to any reality TV show they have. Can we do the death race setup, please? That quote.
Welcome to Death Race. Terminal Island Penitentiary hosts 3 days of the ultimate in auto carnage. Stage 1 of the race begins streaming live in 10 minutes. Subscribe to Stage 1 now for $99, or subscribe to all 3 stages for the low price of $250.
What a deal.
Access to over 100 live camera feeds. Watch from the car of your favorite driver. See the action your way, uncensored,
this is real long.
unedited. A full-on fight to the death, featuring 4-time winner Frankenstein,
With the name
3-time winner Machine Gun Joe,
and then posing.
Pachenko,
this other guy that's
Travis Cole.
sort of in the movie. And then nobody else is important.
Yeah, everyone else that doesn't get introduced dies in Death Race 2.
There's so many people that die in the first race where they're like crossed off, and you're like, who
was that?
It's like I don't want to ruin it in case anybody hasn't seen Suicide
Spoiler.
Squad. But there's one character in Suicide Squad that they just murder, and you're like, oh, that's why there was no intro for that person. Someone's going to be pissed about me for that. But I think that setup is so amazing. Then we get into the first death race, and the first thought I had was, this is like an ultra-violent Mario Kart, where instead of running over blocks where they get like shells or things that can oil slick, they do get oil slick actually. They get their weapons loaded. They get they can shoot out smoke.
They
oil,
get the like shield
gas.
thing that pops up.
The death head is amazing.
Death head, yeah.
The death head is incredible. So they run over a death head, and that basically brings up this giant spike trap that somehow drivers can't avoid, and they get smashed into it. And then because the first guy that gets killed is by a death head, and he smashes in it, he gets impaled by spikes and then crushed.
Comes back into the ground.
So brutal.
That's rough.
Oh, it's so brutal.
Here's what my strategy would be for the first two legs of the death race is to just hang back a half a lap behind everyone else. Because why are you trying to win?
No.
You only need to win the last one.
Here's the thing also. It's not like a typical race where you get first place and you win. It's whoever survives.
Right.
So like you said, just drive like 25 miles an hour, and if they're risking like they might lap you, speed the fuck
Then
up.
get up, yeah.
And
so
then
just stay half a lap and
Can-
do that dance.
My
while
God,
you're...
if that music, I just want that music to be my ringtone. The I feel like every time my phone rang, I'd just be like,
You'd never pick up the phone.
Nope, no, I would never.
No, you drive like a maniac.
So then the second kill that happens is fantastic. It's Reaper. And you're right, there is a girl with Reaper, and his car gets slammed, and as it's already flipping and rolling over, 14K, the Triad, aka Liu Kang, shoots a missile at it, and it blows it up and hits a sign. And the best part about this movie is almost everything in it is practical. They're crashing real cars, and it's like Mad Max, like Fury Road style, where it's all practical shit. And this movie isn't as good as Mad Max Fury Road, but that's what makes this movie so much fun, is it's practical. It's not CGI stupid cars where like you can tell it's not real. It looks dangerous, and you're like, when shit happens, you're like, whoa, whoa, that car launched. So he falls down. He gets out of the car.
Well, so can we just also like the car is rolling and he's clearly like done, and the guy shoots a missile at him. Just like hang on to that missile, bro.
Yeah.
Like
He
you
just
might
wanted to
need
make
that
sure.
missile later.
But he wasn't done, because his name's the Reaper, and he gets out of the car, and what does he say as he's stumbling around all cut up? Can we play the Reaper clip?
Fucking Reaper, baby. Can't kill me. Burn me? You can fucking shoot me, but you just can't motherfucking kill me!
And then Machine Gun Joe comes in, like Tokyo Drift style, hits him, and it's weirdly enough, his head just explodes.
He explodes.
On him.
Explodes upon impact.
It's so strange. His head just blows up. The rest of his
primed.
body stays in pretty much tact, but his head just blows up.
There was a lot of pressure in the head.
It was just
from the trauma that he had just gone through.
He hadn't popped his ears from all the
That's
flipping.
what it was, yeah.
It was just, he needed to
Just
go,
hold your nose and blow.
but instead,
yeah.
it just blew up.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite deaths in the movie, which is so crazy.
And then Machine Gun Joe with you're going to have to wipe this off my car when we get
It's
back.
like,
what a
gee,
dickhead.
What a dick. All right,
Yeah.
you kill them all, and then you make him wash your car
Obviously,
too.
he's going to wash your car. You don't have to say that.
And then Frankenstein, a.k.a. Jensen Ames, a.k.a. Jason Statham, none of his weapons are working because it's rigged. They're seeing how much he can do. They're trying to basically... there's something nefarious going on there. And Natalie Martinez, a.k.a. Case, a.k.a. Hot Girl with Jason Statham, they get an idea. She sits on his lap. They launch the NOS container with all the fluid, the transmission fluid or whatever, and then she pops the lighter out, and she has an amazing line as she's hanging out of the... she hangs out, by the way, and like unjams the gun. Practically, she's hanging out of the car as it's speeding along.
I think she's the MVP of the death
She's
race.
the MVP. She's
Like,
the MVP.
He would not have survived had it not been for her.
So then she throws the lighter, and she has this great one-liner. Can we do the Merry Christmas one?
Merry Christmas, asshole!
Oh, shit! You know, a similar thing happened to me a few years ago. It was a very busy holiday season, and somehow I forgot to get Christmas gifts for my wife.
Come on, Ben.
I mean, how do you forget Christmas? It happens on the same day every year.
But
this
and they
year
remind you constantly.
This year was really busy, and I woke up on Christmas morning, and she had a bunch of presents for me under the tree, and I had none for her. And so my wife just looked at me and said,
Merry Christmas, asshole!
and I went,
Oh, shit!
and I ran out to the stores, but they're not open on Christmas.
Not typically. No, Amazon is.
Amazon. So I just ordered a bunch and had a drone deliver it that day.
Yeah. Well, I went on Black Friday once.
Oh, yeah?
And it was me and this other guy, and we were fighting over a tent.
Yeah.
We were both
You
trying
really
to get
love
this
camping.
tent.
You love building houses and camping.
Oh man, I'm a man of the earth. Let me just tell you, I love shelter. So I was.
Yeah, please, go on.
Yeah, we were. There was one tent left at the REI that we were at, and we both had our hands on it simultaneously. And he ripped it out of my hands. Maybe because psychologically, I didn't need the
You
tent.
wanted it, but you didn't need it.
I didn't need it,
Yeah.
but he grabbed it from me, and so I looked at him, and in the highest octave possible, I said,
Merry Christmas, asshole!
That's nice of you.
"Yeah." This is another classic Christmas tale.
Yeah. So the napalm happens. Frank realizes the Brotherhood killed his wife because of several times where if you're going to do this symbol as you're framing a man for killing his wife,
Finger gun for those just listening.
Maybe Pachenko shouldn't just keep doing that to rub it in. Like,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah, to the same guy.
And he puts two and two together that the GPS is on. So
Yeah, I also feel like if you're in a jail, maybe a lot of people do the finger
But then so maybe he should have passed that around to the other Brotherhood. Like, hey, make it like a red herring so he thinks it's all of us.
Yeah,
not just me.
There should have been more strategy involved in Pachenko's deal.
And then we have there's like a 5-minute story building thing before the next race where Frankenstein, aka Jensen Ames, Jason Statham. I feel like I have to say that every time. I'm just gonna say Jensen Ames from here on out. He goes up to the warden. He's like, "I'm not gonna fucking race again. You rigged it. I'm not gonna do this." And then the warden's like, "Yeah, well, your daughter is gonna go to these two old people. They look like nice old people, but they're not you." And they're going to be raised by them, and they're old, so they'll probably die before she's even in high school. And he's like,
You're injecting a lot of the elderly thing.
There's a lot of things.
She just said these are the people. They're old people. The old people are probably going to die.
They picked the oldest foster parents
They're
ever.
the only people not in jail. They're the only people still
and then
living
the only
in the
people
world.
that still have like old money. They didn't get the economic.
They cashed
economic
out
crash.
their 401k already.
So then Jason Statham looks at her and he says in typical 90s action style, she's like, the monster quote. Can we play that? Monster quote? You
wanted a monster. Well, you've got one.
Come on. You've wanted a monster. Well, you've got one. It's just he drops his already low voice down. It's like he swallows even more gravel for that quote.
I mean, that's his monster voice.
They're like, all right, now you've got one.
We need you to be a monster, Jason.
He's just.
But normally I'm a monster.
You know what's so great about Jason
monstery.
Statham? Jason Statham reminds me of Stallone back in the day as well, where they have a sense of humor about themselves, but they're also, when they need to be, super badass.
Right. Well, this is what I was saying about like the brand.
Super
that
badass.
Like he just naturally is that.
Which is
like,
crazy because when you go back and watch like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, you don't get a hint of that. I remember when Transported, the first one came out, I was like, the nerdy, like cheeky British guy from Lock, Stock is in an action movie? And then you're like, fuck.
He can do so many pull-ups.
So many pull-ups.
I think the pull-ups changed his life.
And they did. Maybe I should do more pull-ups and my life will change.
You can beat up strangers if you do pull-ups.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
It's so crazy. So then there's before round 2, we get the setup where the badass showdown with the warden. Then he sees the Pachenko. He goes after Pachenko in person, not in a car. And he gets cornered by like 4 of the Brotherhood. And it is one of the best just brawls I've seen in a while, where he beats the shit out of all of them. He starts hitting, but he knocks Pachenko into the other room. He picks up a giant thing of just heavy-ass metal tools and throws it on his back. Then he throws him into a metal shelving, throws the shelving on top of him, and starts kicking the shelves. It's just insane. It's awesome.
Well, he's like the MacGyver of fighting.
He is.
He uses his surroundings.
Yeah. He does.
He
just
likes shelter just as much as I do.
does. He likes just throwing people into shelters, bringing it down, and then beating them to death with the shelters. He picks up the muffler and he's about to smash his head, and then they get tasered.
Yeah.
And Jason Clarke's like, "Save it for the field, boys.
Yep.
I'm the asshole dude."
So
here.
wait, but before he fights Pachenko, he is being restrained, right? This is the one where he's got the chain around his neck, and he is about to get beaten over the head with a wrench by Pachenko.
Yeah.
And List comes
in with a pen,
saves the day with a pen,
because the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah. To List it is.
To List it is.
To List.
And he starts getting his hands stepped on, which he needs that to write lists.
Poor List.
What did he do to get in there? But
we literally don't know.
List and Case, aka Natalie Martinez, MVPs.
Yeah.
MVPs.
Oh, for sure.
So now we get into round 2, where he realizes from Case that he's not supposed to win. He hangs back, like you said.
Yeah.
Which I think, he's gonna hang back and just let them kill each other. No, he hangs back to try and find out the secret that Hennessy doesn't want him to win, that it's all rigged, so that Frankenstein can keep this image going, but that the drivers keep dying, so they never have to actually release someone. Sort of makes sense. I don't know. But then he's like, hey, there's someone I gotta kill. So he's not trying to race everybody else. He's just going for Pachenko. He fucks him up in the car, and you think, he's just gonna leave him dead. Backs up, puts the mask on, gets out of the car, and on camera, snaps his neck.
Yeah.
It's brutal and awesome.
And then just mad dogs the camera. Looks right into the camera. Is basically like, you're next, Hennessy.
You're next.
But to get out of the car on the track in a car race,
the only other person who's done that is Reaper, and we saw how that ended.
Well, he was cocky when he did it.
He's super cocky. He shouldn't have done that. So then he gets back in the car, and you think, all right, they're all just gonna go. But they've been hinting at this thing that Hennessy's been building,
right?
And then they unleash it. And I remember when I saw this in theaters, I think me and Corey both were like, "Oh shit!" It's this giant semi-truck that's like a battering ram with machine guns, flamethrowers, spiked tires. It can shoot out chains that hook into your car. It's insane.
It can go as fast as the souped up sports cars. It is somehow 5 times as big. It is equipped with, what would you say, 6 guards with guns on top?
We talked about this. Like, what do they get out of
What's
this?
in it for the guards?
Did they draw a short straw and it's like, sorry, you got to do the dreadnought today.
Like they're not going to be released from, this is their job.
Yeah.
Why do they have to be subjected to
I feel like Hennessy just assumed that the dreadnought was going to survive. None of them were going to get killed.
You should not assume anything in a death race.
You never
assume anything.
Never assume anything. Nothing is certain except death in a death race.
And racing. Those 2 things.
So the dreadnought just mows down. It blows up one car, then it slams into 14K, like we said, and it chews up with the spike tires his hot navigator.
Yeah.
Then you think he's done. He's swerving out. They throw out spike chains, hook into his tires, and drag him along. You still think, maybe they'll just drag him and he'll crash into a wall. No, they turn a fucking tank gun onto him and and he just goes
from point blank range.
Yeah. And I love that he says like, oh fuck or oh shit, and they subtitle it in Chinese, because they've been subtitling his Chinese in English the whole time, and then he goes, oh shit, and it's subtitled in Chinese.
He's fuck me.
Fuck me. Yeah. And then he just blows him to smithereens, practically again. So then everybody else gets mowed down, except Machine Gun Joe and Jensen Ames, aka Frankenstein. And they team up, and they say, let's go on the offense.
Right.
And they keep trying to, and what happened? Come on, that's one of the craziest things.
So
what?
Okay, so first of all, if I were either one of them and someone called me from their car phone, and they were like, let's team up, I would have been like, yeah, for sure. And then I would definitely not have done it. I would have been like, yeah, for sure, we're doing that. And then I would have just fucked the other person, because now I'm the only one left.
Yeah.
And what, day 3 of Death Race, I can just cruise.
Yeah.
But
what happens if you're the only one left? Yeah.
Unclear. I don't think it's ever happened. But so they decide, all right, this is what we're gonna do. They both drive up on either side of the
because you have to have 4 tires,
right,
to hit the hit the death's head.
So the flank, they're on either flank of the big, what was it called?
Death head.
The death head?
Yeah.
So they're on either side of it, and they're just getting pummeled with bullets.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And they're unfazed. I don't know how, but they're just like getting crushed, but they're inching ahead, they're inching ahead, and right before they get to the shield thing, the thing that pops up, they pull ahead of the death head. They
Oh, they're getting flamethrowered, everything.
Everything. Every
Flame
Oh, yeah. The car's like
Flamethrower-
on fire.
Flamethrowered is not a word. But
But that's what was
should
going
be.
on. That was the verb that was happening to Jason Statham.
yes.
He was being flamethrowed. The car's on fire. They pull ahead. They both get 2 sets of tires on the shield. The shield pops up.
And this, I watched the special features. It's practical. What happens?
The Death Head drives directly into it.
The Dreadnought hits it.
The Dreadnought, that's what it is. The Dreadnought hits it.
The front of the
head
semi
on.
slams, and then the back of it launches up over.
Yep.
The only thing that's CGI are the guards falling off of it and hitting the ground.
And I would contest whether or not that was CGI. That could have been real.
It was. I watched the special features,
right.
but it looks so good because it's practical. They crashed a giant 35,000-pound semi into a fucking spike wall.
Yeah.
And then the back of it launches over, and it's epic. And then it blows up, and it's a huge explosion. And then Joan Allen's just like, son of a bitch. So then we have another like 10-minute thing before the round 3, right?
Yeah.
So in between there, we have Joe. Joe is suspicious that Frankenstein is actually Jensen Ames.
Sure.
And so Frank goes over to Joe with all his posse, and he's like, I think you and Frank need to have a little talk. We don't know what the talk is, because that would spoil it.
We're not privy to it.
We're not. It happens off camera.
I think they're talking about baseball. I did want to mention before we go on,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a baseball field in the prison yard, and they're like playing baseball in it.
Yeah.
That's not typical to a prison.
I don't
It's
think
usually
so.
basketball.
I don't think so.
Like the hardest prison ever. They're like, you got 9?
America's pastime, bitches. Here we go.
I'm permanent pitcher.
So we go into round 3, just Joe and Frank, and they start playing it up, and Joe's just blasting away at Frank, and you're like, oh my god. And Hennessy keeps deactivating everything Frank, aka Jason Statham, is trying to drive over, deactivating all the shields, everything,
And then reactivating it for Joe.
for
so
Joe.
that
She's
gets
totally
him.
screwing him over.
Yeah.
And what we don't know is that what Jason Statham doesn't know is that Hennessy has put a bomb under his car to trigger at any moment too. So she's just stacking the cards against him. And what happens is that they're blowing up everything, and then so what happened? So then Joe, he's playing it up. They give him the signal. And you're like, what's this mean? And then Joe shoots a rocket launcher. Statham swerves out of the way right at the last minute. It blows a hole in the only structurally unsound part of the race.
Which happens to be right next to the bridge.
Next to the bridge. Poor planning on Hennessy's part.
A little bit.
They zoom through, and Hennessy's like, "Where are they? They're off the grid. Shut down the feed. Don't let anybody in the audience see this. They're escaping." And then Hennessy, Joan Allen, delivers one of the greatest lines in action movie history when she says, "Don't fuck with me." Can we do it's the shit on the sidewalk one?
Okay, cocksucker. Fuck with me, and we'll see who shits on the sidewalk.
Can we just play that one more time?
Okay, cocksucker. Fuck with me, and we'll see who shits on the sidewalk.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, so I have a lot of opinions on this.
Please.
First of all, it flies in the face of the previous quote that we heard from her, which is that foul language
Yeah, you're
is
right.
an issue for her.
Clearly not.
Clearly it is not. Clearly she utilizes it when it is to her advantage.
Yes.
Second of all, I wish someone would fuck with her because I need to know who shits on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Because that's an important part of like
Because you should avoid them
who you are.
societally and
Exactly.
And if it's anybody on your Facebook friends list,
I
you
would
should
not, because I
defriend
ride.
them.
Listen, I ride for my friends, and I would have a tough time justifying a friend of mine who shat on the sidewalk.
I don't shat on any sidewalks.
I've never in my life
Never
done that.
have I shat or shit or will.
Try and keep it contained to a toilet.
Or the woods if you're hiking.
Yeah, and if there's a sidewalk, chances are there's grass right next to the sidewalk.
You can at least do the grass.
Use the grass.
I mean, even my dog doesn't use the sidewalk. So
No.
I would love to know the script writing process for that, where Joan Allen first read that line and was like, "Oh, I wonder if she probably was just like, this is awesome." Yes.
I would like to
Yes.
think it was a Joan Allen improv.
Oh, that'd be even better.
Yeah.
If just like one take, they're like, "Hey, Joan, just say whatever you want." She's like, "Oh, I got you, motherfuckers." And they're like, "That was amazing."
That's the line that that was said, and then they wrote the rest of the script. They were like, "Joan, we're working on a film. We want you to be a warden.
Yeah. Can you just
do you
throw
throw out a couple warden lines?" And
Yeah.
she threw that line out, and they were like, "Done. We have the idea.
Okay,
We got
we'll
it.
be back in about 3
Perfect.
months. Perfect. So then we find out that Coach. So after she says that line, she hits it. Coach deactivated the explosive. She's like, "Motherfucker!" They're screwed. They they blow up a ton of cop cars because they planned on having an extra fuel tank, and they release that. It somehow blows up about 40 cop cars.
Well, because they're on the bridge. It's such a narrow bridge, and all the cop cars are basically single file line.
like Benny Hill style.
Like they couldn't have anticipated something like this.
So then Statham rolls out of the car because Case her release papers are already signed.
Wait, so the last level of defense of the prison is just a chain link
fence and some dudes, with guns.
who like were unprepared. Like they turn the guns towards them as they're approaching.
It's like
they didn't know what was going on. Like they see the cars and they're like, oh fuck.
It's pretty ridiculous. So then Case already has her release paper signed, so she'll be fine, which is a huge plot hole for me because if you helped a convicted murderer, 2 of them escape. I think your release papers would be null and void, but whatever.
I would think so.
She has to get to Mexico, which was supposed to be Miami.
She just shouldn't have participated in the race if they were already signed. She should have just been like, well,
all right,
I'm
peace,
done.
I'm out
I
of
hate
here.
This place.
So then they hop off and they go on the train and they have that weird homophobic moment that we've already talked about a lot. And then there's a moment where Hennessy and Aldrich are like celebrating. They're like, congratulations, everybody loves it, even though they kind of lost and they escaped, but they're like, viewership is high, we'll get them on the next one, don't worry about it. We already have a gift, and it's like no one screened this gift before it came into the prison. No one screened a gift to the warden, like at least metal detectored it or something.
Yeah, how is the gift delivered? Like at some point,
I love that I keep just making things verbs that aren't metal detectored it. The flamethrower,
the killiest of the killers.
The killiest of the killers.
But yeah, like at some point, Coach would have given this to one of the guards, right? Like,
and he didn't think to go, maybe I should.
Right. Oh, this is coming from a prisoner? Interesting.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So they open it up, and it's the bomb that she had put under his car, and Coach flips a switch, blows up Hennessy and Aldrich or whatever his name is, and then Coach turns the camera, clearly on a green screen, but I don't care because it's Ian McShane and it's amazing. Yeah. And he says, I love this game. Can we play that?
I love this game.
It's so weirdly seductive. Like,
it is.
I love this game.
Machine Gun Joe got a boner from it.
It's so amazing. So Ian McShane. You shall not pass this death race.
I mean, that also.
That'd be amazing. So then we have an epilogue in Mexico, even though it was supposed to be in Miami.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in Miami.
I'm 99% sure, but now you're making me second guess it. But I remember...
No, you're probably right. They just
Mexico.
talked a bunch about Miami, but you're probably right that it was Mexico.
So now Statham and Machine Gun Joe, a.k.a. Tyrese, are mechanic buddies in this junkyard. Totally platonic, bro. Totally platonic, in case you're wondering. And this car comes zooming up, and they're like, I think we got company. And out walks in slow motion, in super hot crop top, short shorts.
Yeah, she went shopping.
Case, she gets out, and she's free too. He's like, what took you so long? Oh, my release papers, they had trouble with them. It's like, yeah, no shit, you had trouble with them. You let Frankenstein go free.
And then the warden got blowed up.
Yeah, it
so
got done blowed up.
That was probably your fault.
And then we end with Statham going, I want you to meet someone. And he goes and gets his daughter out of the backseat of the car they were fixing. I don't know. I'm going to be a parent in November, and I don't know if I was mechanicking a car.
Mechanicking.
If I was mechanicking a car, I think I'd have the kid in like a pack and play in the shade somewhere at least, or in the air conditioner. Or
here's the thing though, Jason Statham could probably beat that car up.
He could.
So anything the car was going to do to that kid,
he would just beat up that car.
Fuck the car up.
So then him and Natalie and Case, they kind of hug. They don't kiss because it's not like a romantic ending, but they're all just friends hanging out in Mexico because nobody will look there, I guess. And the camera pans away as Jason Statham's giving this very, fatherly monologue where he's like, I was asked one time by someone if this was the right choice for me to be the father to my daughter, and it's like, no, we know who that someone was. It was the warden.
We saw that
like
conversation
40 minutes ago. He's like,
you don't have to be coy.
I don't know if it is, but I know that I'm gonna do the best I can. It's like this weird sort of like happy, nice fatherly ending that I appreciate.
Like at the end, we found out that it was a movie about fatherhood.
It was the whole time.
Wait, what?
It was a movie about a father getting back to his daughter.
Yeah.
Sort of. And then it just goes death race, and that's the end of the movie, and it's awesome. So that's been Death Race. We've been talking about it for a very long time because I love it so much. I love this movie.
It was tremendous.
Please tell us, tell us what your thoughts were on Death Race. What's your favorite Jason Statham movie? I want you to chime in on that. Is it Transporter?
What's your favorite Death Race movie?
What's your favorite Death Race movie? I haven't seen the other two. And let me know if they're worth watching. They're in my collection. I just don't know if they're worth the time it would take to watch it.
What's your favorite movie about fatherhood?
What's your favorite movie about? Yeah, exactly. Did you see The Mechanic Resurrection? Did you think it was as boring as I did? Yeah, anything. Also, give us suggestions. We love suggestions. We're going to be back next week. We should be back at a regular time. We're going to try and make that work. If not, we will post on Twitter when we're going to be on. Jesse, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at TooMuchJesse. I've been frequenting Chipotle quite a bit, so you could probably find me at Chipotle.
Perfect. Look out for that E. coli.
Look out for my sketch group coming soon, Prom Losers. So check that stuff out. It should be coming in November. You can find it at promlosers.com eventually. You can probably find it on YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, and I'm at the Ben Begley. Also, we're at Guilty Movie Guys here. And my movie, The Funhouse Massacre, that my wife and I wrote, is still out. It didn't go anywhere. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix. I mean, it's not on Netflix, but you can order the disc. It's at Redbox, so if you want to spend $2 to see it, and then tweet at me what you thought of it, even if you didn't like it, just go see it anyways.
Hey, and if you have seen it, see it again.
Yeah,
don't be a bitch.
It's definitely a guilty movie pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week, and until next time, what is your guilty movie pleasure?
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Kristian Harloff, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.
Do you understand the concept of the Tooth Fairy?